pregnant, so she's got plus one, I think.
Yeah.
I think that's what that
Okay.
means.
Well, anyway, I'm going to call them the B team, and we're the A team.
That's fine.
So the B team will be here on Monday.
The B team will be here on Monday, yeah.
Okay. The A team is back on Thursday.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So that's how it works.
So we can have this competition, because one of the B team is in the audience, our token millennial over there. Okay, so fluff and stuff.
Fluff and stuff's easy to find anymore. So
This is part of our Answers News. We start with fluff and stuff before we get into really
so you
meaty
can laugh
stuff.
a little bit.
Okay, so Bodie, 190 million gone forever.
I know, yeah, this was interesting. For those of you who know anything about, the crypto coins and the crypto money that's out there, Bitcoin is a famous one. That's one of the many types. But it's almost like think of like a foreign currency. You can translate your money into it and get it back out, and some places accept it and take it.
It's just not based in anything legal.
Right, it's not based in a,
gold
like a gold standard, or a bank, that's kind of either government run or FDIC backed, that sort of thing. So there's reasons that people like to do this, and there may be advantages to it and disadvantages and so forth. Well, people are now finding one of the disadvantages. I guess the password behind it all was only held with the head boss, and he died. And so now there's a lot of people going, well, I've got money in here. How do I get it out? Yeah. Well, you can't right now.
I don't understand. With all these hackers in the world, wouldn't you think somebody could hack it?
Well, sooner or later, if somebody knows, hey, there's a $100 million treasure chest out there.
There's probably hackers all over the world trying to get into there right now.
Who knows?
Yeah.
But,
okay.
He encrypted it well, apparently.
Yeah,
so.
apparently he got Crohn's disease.
You know what? I did the other night. I actually watched the State of the Union address.
Did you?
I watched
Good
it.
for you.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because one of the statements that the president made was that socialism doesn't work.
That's right.
Right? And we have an article that's proof that socialism doesn't work.
This is Panera Socialist Pay What You Want restaurant implodes. Students and homeless mob the place. So, duh. Like, what did you think was going to happen if you can just pay whatever you want? People don't want to pay anything but get the food, and that's not a sustainable business model.
You know another reason why this particular one didn't work and why socialism doesn't work? Because they assume that people are basically good.
Yeah.
But people aren't basically good. The Bible says the heart of man is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked.
Yep.
People they're not just basically bad, people are real bad.
They're really bad.
Well, it says pay what you want. That's what people pay. They paid what they
didn't want to pay anything.
Well, the problem was, their intentions were good. It was to help people who didn't have money to buy food they need and to come in and so on. But what happened was all these students, I guess millennials, remember, we've got a token millennial, Avery, sitting in the audience. All these students,
I don't know, I can see Gen X doing that too.
Bombed the place to get free food.
Yeah. Well, they're students. They don't have a lot of
money.
Well,
they're also sinners.
Yeah.
So
well, apparently this wasn't the only one. They had a chain of them,
several of them,
and they've all kind of flopped.
And
then the last one.
By the way, did you know that
going too?
Dr. Purdom, Georgia Purdom, our molecular geneticist, did not do something today?
What did I? Oh.
You didn't welcome our audience.
Okay.
Oh, you forgot to welcome.
Well, you wanted to start right away, so okay. So we do have a wonderful.
Oh, I get the blame.
You get the blame.
Yeah.
So we have a wonderful studio audience with us today. So make yourselves known. Come on, clap. Let's hear it.
There we go.
There we go.
Okay.
Happy now?
So the last fluff and stuff article here.
I thought this was a joke. Like, we all thought this was a joke, but sadly it's not. Indian man to sue his parents for giving birth to him without his consent wants to be paid for his life. This is an actual thing.
It's called antinatalism.
Antinatalism.
Yeah.
So here's the question. Are the parents countersuing? Saying, hey, you didn't get our consent to sue us?
Well, the parents are lawyers, which is funny about the whole thing. And they said if he can come up with a way by which they could have received his consent in order to have him, they'd be happy to acquiesce to that. So,
So how does this relate now to the abortion issue? Because if they can't give their consent, then that would be...
Then they couldn't abort them.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
So if they would win, it would be illegal for abortion.
It should be. If you have to give consent to give birth, you should certainly have to give consent to kill someone. So yeah.
But see, I just don't quite grasp this. Did this guy expect to stay in the womb like for 80 years? I mean, what's going on here?
I don't know.
You know, if they want to go back and say, well, you know, they didn't give, you know, they didn't ask for his consent for conception. Well, hold it, you didn't exist. So how's that possible?
Well, listen to this. Samuel has been reported as a follower of antinatalism, an increasingly popular yet bizarre ideology that believes it's morally wrong for people to procreate and takes a nihilistic approach towards human life, saying that humanity only brings suffering. So in other words, they want all humanity wiped out.
Pretty much.
Actually, when it says it's wrong for people to procreate, once you abandon God's word, anything goes, because what does the Bible say? Be fruitful and multiply. So from a Christian perspective, there is the answer.
And that's why you can do math, too.
Multiply.
So you can multiply. It's the basis for math.
Yeah.
That means, but to multiply, you'd have to have more than 2 children, too. Otherwise, it's just replacement.
Well, it's still math.
All right.
Oh, somebody on here said, this is good. The other team, not our team, what you call the B team, they think they should be called the next generation team. But you know what that means? That means you're saying we're old.
Okay, there's going to be rivalry developed
than we are.
now between our two Answers News teams. We're going to have to take people vote. You know, one of the things I've noticed about some of the comments, lots of people getting online, hey, tell us where you're from. We love to see where you're from. We do go through all these comments, and we try to read some of them too. But I noticed some people, you see the same names, and they're starting to connect to each other. So I think there's becoming an Answers News friends community, you know, a groupie base that are starting to get to know each other, and they comment to each other.
About the Panera article, somebody says, well, they reject Christian morals, but they assume people will pay on an honor system.
Right. Yeah,
somebody said here it's 9 degrees Fahrenheit in Lincoln, Nebraska. Well, here in Kentucky, it's 2 inches water.
Oh yeah, I drove through a lot of water to get here. I think about a foot and a half.
It's been pouring out there.
Yeah. We need the ark, Ken. we need it to actually work, maybe.
We do. So Booty is a punny guy. Okay.
No, Bodie.
And somebody picked up Georgia Purdom blaming Ken Ham about not welcoming the audience. Is that not what Eve did to Adam? Of course. No, actually,
Adam did that to Eve.
Adam blamed Eve. Eve blamed the serpent.
Yeah, but Adam blamed Eve.
Yeah, I know.
So, yeah.
Yeah, well, I was blaming you.
We're just living
Well, it's
in
true.
that
It's your responsibility. So.
Okay. Now for the real news. All right. Crossbreeding threatens conservation of endangered milky storks. So this is a species of storks that is found in Southeast Asia. I'm specifically looking at Singapore here. And they're concerned that the milky stork is basically disappearing because it is hybridizing with another member of the same genus, I would assume, the painted stork. So there will be no more milky storks, they'll just be combos.
I call those chocolate milky storks.
Do you know the thing that I got out of this the most? I mean, I read this article, and the thing I got out of it the most was that when storks breed with storks, they give storks.
That's right.
That's amazing.
You know, that's profound, isn't it?
It is profound.
Well, they're members of the same kind, so it's not unusual.
It's not a big deal,
that they would
but see, there's this mentality. You know, people, they float around thinking, okay, well, we've got this species, the way they define it is kind of arbitrary. We got this species, the way they define it's arbitrary. Then when they start having babies, they go, what happened? That's because they didn't define it properly.
Let me ask the kids in the audience here. There's some kids in the audience. Do you think when storks breed with storks, you'd expect storks?
They all believe it. They certainly do. Look at that.
Yeah.
They do.
And the thing is, hybridization can actually be a really good thing in the wild sometimes, because a lot of times hybrids can be more sturdy, so to speak, more vigorous, and you get increased genetic diversity as a result.
Because you'll be mixing those genes back in.
That's right, Dr. Purdom, stork it to them.
But, you know.
Okay. Just move on.
Okay. So, Bodie. So, my question is, how do you define species sometimes? Because, I mean, they're obviously really similar, and yet they call them different species.
Well, that's part and parcel of the famous species problem.
Right,
people can't define it properly.
And yet speciation is equated with the word evolution over and over and over again.
Yeah, it's just speciation.
Right.
So, and I don't know that we need, again, I've always said, I'm not sure we need to preserve every species of every kind. Like, again, it's a man-made designation, the species is, and so as long as we're still preserving the kind overall, I think that's the most important thing.
Well, here's the interesting thing. Apart from habitat loss and fragmentation, extinction through hybridization, that actually gives a wrong idea to people,
Right.
because hybridization is actually bringing back probably a lot of the genetic diversity instead of diluting it,
Right.
which is the opposite of evolution.
Right. Well, species can get too far one way, and they get so well adapted,
Too specified.
that as things change, they can't change.
Well,
and
think of that with the painted stork here and the milky stork. You know, they're going in these different directions to be so specialized. When they come back together, they bring the genes back together, and so you know, it's actually probably more healthy. You know, from a big picture.
Yeah.
So somebody said here, Eve blamed the serpent, Dr. Purdom blamed Ken Ham. Does that mean Ken Ham is a snake? Well,
I'm not even going there.
all the atheists will probably agree.
They probably would.
Because they call me that.
Okay.
Yeah, anyway.
All right, the evolutionary history of baboons. Okay, so basically what they say is there's like 6 different species of baboons, and so they've been able to form a phylogenetic tree, in other words, a tree of how they're all kind of related to each other. And the problem with it is, and so, okay, no big deal there, they analyze their DNA, but they're wanting to equate this with evolution. They're saying, oh, this helps us know, you know, by looking at the different species, this helps us somehow know about their evolution. But that isn't evolution.
Do you know what I got most out of this article? You know, for all the kids, do you know what I got most out of this article? When baboons breed with baboons, you get baboons.
Yeah.
It's sort of like the stork article. These are incredible to read.
They need to stop monkeying around with this stuff. That was bad too. I'll admit it. No,
that's 2, Bodie.
Yeah, that is 2. They said of these 6 African baboon species, they have interbred with each other. They've hybridized as well. Yeah. So really, they're part of the one kind.
But here's an incredible, profound statement. They say, because we've seen different species of baboons and they're breeding together, which means they're baboons, this helps us understand the evolutionary history of the human species.
But yet they don't explain that at all.
So baboons breed with baboons to give baboons. This helps us understand how ape-like creatures turned into people.
Well, because they're...
Can you figure that out?
Can't figure
well,
that
they're
out.
going to say, too, it helps us understand, but again, even the speciation, they would call the speciation of humans, because they put Neanderthals into denisovans and humans into different species, at least, all humans, but maybe it can help us understand that, but we would argue they're all humans.
So what they're getting at is that humans breed with humans and get
produce
humans.
Yeah.
Wow.
Amazing, again, so.
I just want the kids to know, I like to reinforce as a teacher what we've learned today. So we've learned so far that storks breed with storks and give storks, baboons breed with baboons and give baboons, and humans breed with humans and give humans.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Really, really challenging to think about.
You know, after, I don't want the kids in the audience to believe in evolution after this. That's what I'm worried about, that they'll believe in evolution. So anyway, hey, somebody here said they're watching while packing curriculum. Does that mean they're in our warehouse?
Wow.
Could be, I don't know.
Anyway.
They might be.
They might be.
Is Dr. Mortensen, is he over in Seattle right now?
Seattle, yeah.
Somebody posted on here, they just got 6 inches of snow east of Seattle with more coming. It said it's very unusual and no one here knows how to drive it. They're not used to we're getting kind of their weather here, I think, instead of, you know, we're used to the snow, but they are getting it now.
Hey, Bodie, you got some comments here like, Bodie.
All right. Hey, I'll take that as a compliment.
Another one says, yay, Bodie, ha 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 ha.
They're starting to count my puns on this
Somebody
one.
on here says, let's not get rid of any of the dog kinds, dog breeds, especially the poodle, your favorite dog. That's what they said.
You know what? Poodles
There we go.
are almost not dogs.
Yeah. According to you.
A-N-D.
So I don't want to hear comments on Facebook. Just
almost
know.
not dogs.
Yeah.
See, I don't know. I would put the Chihuahuas down there.
The correct definition.
Make a lot of people
The
upset.
correct definition of a poodle or a Chihuahua is a sin-cursed, mutated copy of the original.
Do you realize Chihuahuas are so ugly? They put clothes on them in Hollywood.
Okay, do not
Okay,
put comments
cute
on
for
here,
those of you who
people.
feel that.
Okay, because everyone will get
Having
mad.
some fun.
All right.
No,
Dem-
I really do love poodles. One day they'll be extinct.
Okay, you still have not changed from the last article. Come on. Okay.
Oh.
Ready? Next one. There we go.
Okay,
See?
we're going to talk about baboons.
We already did.
We already did.
Dems to strike, so help you God, from oath taken in front of Key House Committee, draft shows. So this was for the House Committee on Natural Resources. They were going to say that people that would testify when they put their hand, well, I guess, I don't know if they'd still put their hand on the Bible, but they would just solemnly swear to uphold the truth. And instead of saying, "So help you God," it would say, "under penalty of law." And so they wanted to do that, but it did not pass.
Well, the interesting thing is when they say under penalty of law, everyone is looking for some standard by which you're going to swear by. And of course, many of the founding fathers, not all, but were Christians, or at least had a respect for the Bible and used that as the standard. And of course, we would say it is the absolute a standard, of course. But if someone's not a Christian and doesn't believe that, when they say God, then they're not going to mean the God of the Bible as the absolute standard.
Yeah.
They're going to mean their own God, I guess.
Or themselves, or the universe, or whatever they think. The problem is they're getting rid of God as the authority, and they're replacing that with law, thinking that the law is the authority, and that's what you're appealing to for your help. But the thing is, the law is so contradictory in many instances. It's there's a lot of people who openly defy the law.
We should note that there was another article that came out that said that they won't strike to help you God from the House Committee oath after an outcry.
There was a lot of uproar from the Republican
there was a lot of uproar. But really, it really comes down to there is a worldview battle going on in this nation, and the difference between what's secular and what's Christian, there's just an incredible battle. And those who are secular don't want to acknowledge God, but then there are those who want to acknowledge God. That secularism is a religion. I mean, whatever position you have, when they say, "Oh, take out God because that's religious," well, what they're left with is religious. So it depends on what religion you want as your foundation.
What religion are you talking about? Yeah, I know. Like Panera was,
socialism.
Yeah, they were moving around with some socialism, some communist types of principles, and that view is actually a religious viewpoint. It is one of the subsets of the religion of secular humanism. In our World Religions and Cults book series, believe it or not, we actually discuss the religion of communism and how that then applies to political systems and moral systems and things like that. And there are countries that are still bound by that religion, forcibly, even in today's day and age.
Well, see, this also reminded me, back in 2012, if you remember, it was on television in the news, the floor of the Democratic National Convention erupted over a sudden move to restore to the platform a reference to God and recognition of Jerusalem as Israel's capital.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of uproar over that, but eventually they did. But again, if you look at the millennials today, how secularized they are, and then Generation Z, how much more secularized they are. When they're the predominant group in the culture, if they remain with the same worldview, they'll get rid of any vestige of Christianity. That's really what's been happening in the culture. The culture founded basically using the Bible as the standard and biblical morality, the doctrines that come like marriage that come out of the Bible. And now there's an incredible worldview shift in the culture because there's been a foundational shift. We now have generations that have no respect for the Bible. So it's a religious battle. It's a conflict. It started in Genesis 2 and Genesis 3. The battle between believe God's word or man decides truth and becomes his own God. That's what it is. And we see that happening in all sorts of areas actually. So, by the way, I was going to mention, there was, in this article, it talks about the Michigan representative, they call her Omar, who's a Muslim, as I understand. She's come under attack for pushing what some people call radical and unfounded religious-based attacks. She wrote in 2012, "Israel has hypnotized the world. May Allah awaken the people and help them see the evil doings of Israel." So she has a particular religious commitment, and that determines her worldview. And so whoever's in Congress in the United States, it depends upon their worldview, how they're going to vote, what they're going to push for. And we've got to remember that it's a worldview battle, and we're seeing that worldview battle in Washington, D.C.
And why it's important for Christians to get out and vote, and for Christians to be in politics, because we need good, strong leaders that have those values that can help, stem the tide.
Yeah, and then you have the atheists saying, "You have no right to push your values on people." Well, that's because they want to push their values on people. So you see, it is a worldview worldview clash.
Right.
That's what it's all about.
I mean, just consider a simple one, you know, why shouldn't you lie? Well, that comes from the Bible. It comes from the Ten Commandments.
Yeah.
But, you know, other religions, you know, if you're an atheist, there is no God who sets what's right and wrong. If you want to lie, lie. You see? You know, in Islam, you can lie for the cause of Allah. There's a lot of different religions that they view lying in different ways.
Yeah.
You know, in a Hinduistic or an Eastern worldview, you know, all is one. So lying and not lying is one and the same, you know, ultimately when you break it down. See, it's from a biblical viewpoint that things like lying is wrong. So just consider what that would ultimately lead to. If you say, hey, let's throw the Bible out, it could lead to anything.
Yeah, because once it's man that determines standard, it's, you know, that's how, well, that's how you get socialism taking over, chaos. Communism taking over.
Yeah.
Okay, early human cousins may have been jewelers. Okay, so this is talking about the Denosivans that we've talked about on here before. They are, you know, a type of, when we say archaic human, we don't mean in the sense of primitive, which
people
is what they say
soon
here.
after Babel.
Yeah, yeah. So these are populations that existed after Babel that may have had some different characteristics as far as how they looked, like brow ridges were a bit more pronounced or something like that. But they're fully human beings. So understanding that, hey, they had beads and made jewelry is not all that like surprising from a creation
It's funny,
perspective.
they call them primitive humans, and yet here they are making jewelry. I know people that can't make jewelry.
Yeah, well, baboons aren't making jewelry, I'll tell you that much.
Sure aren't. But, I mean, their dates are dead wrong. You know, they're wanting to push stuff here 200,000 years to 50,000 years ago and stuff like that. Clearly, the dates are way off, and these are just arbitrary dates that they're trying to presume and try to do some educated guesses on. But this is after Babel, so it's
There's one statement in here that I think it would be good for us just to say something about. It says carbon dating, which uses the half-life of radioactive carbon isotopes to show the age of organic matter, is only reliable on specimens up to roughly 50,000 years old. And the reason I want to say that is because even though carbon dating has all sorts of assumptions, and we'd say nothing's older than about 6,000 years, but many secularists think carbon dating is what dates things millions of years. I hear that all the time. Carbon dating has nothing to do with millions of years. And here's, this person understands carbon dating. It can only go up to 50, maybe 100,000 at the most.
Theoretically.
And they're using other ways to date these things too, like sediment dating, genomic mutation rates. But I looked at all that and I thought, yeah, but all of that, and they said, well, because of all these things, we can date these with high certainty.
Yeah.
Like, no, you can't, because all of those things are based on assumptions about the past. And if your assumptions are wrong, then your dates are wrong.
Well, the funny thing is that paragraph that has the words high certainty, it starts, they then use a mathematical model. As soon as you see that word model, then that's based on all sorts of assumptions. Models.
And clearly they can't get their dates right because we know what the real dates are. It's less than about 4,000 years ago.
Yeah.
So they're clearly not accurate.
But here's the other thing that we need to remember. They say they had tools, jewelry, so they immediately recognize intelligence. They see design in something and recognize intelligence. Yet they look at DNA and say chance.
Yeah.
And DNA is the most complex information language system in the universe. And they look at that and say, that's chance. And they look at a little piece of rock and say, oh, it's a stone tool. Wow, it's intelligence. I mean, how ridiculous can they get? Hey, somebody here, there was some comment. Oh, it said Ken for president. Okay, just to give all the atheists, just so the atheists don't have to take indigestion pills, I can't run for president because I wasn't born in America.
Come on, people.
Right, that's going to be all over the news now. You know, I heard the other day Hillary Clinton said she's not going to run for president. Right next to it is going to be Ken Ham's not going to run for president either.
I'm not a naturalized citizen.
That's right.
But if I did run for some position in Congress, if I'm allowed to, or something,
there's certain ones you can.
They don't have to dig up, try to find stuff about what I've said and what I believe, because it's all out there.
It's all out there. Yeah,
that's true.
I mean, it's all out there that I believe marriage is a man and a woman. I don't believe you can change your gender. I'm against abortion. Yeah, it's all, just to let everyone know, it's all out there.
All right. All right. Ancient pandas weren't exclusive bamboo eaters, bone evidence suggests. So they did a study on current pandas living in China, as well as pandas that they have from fossils, and kind of looked at what are called isotopes, and so radioactive forms of different elements, and so they vary. They can vary depending on your diet, actually, and what you take in. And they determined that the fact that they just eat bamboo now is probably more of a recent thing, not something they necessarily did 2 million years ago. So.
Yeah, and even sometimes even now they eat some other stuff, you know.
Yeah, they're not
bamboos are
exclusive.
primary.
So that's the opposite of evolution. They become more specialized.
Right.
And lose the ability. You know, it's like the koala in Australia. They say the koalas once used to eat a lot of different types of leaves, and now they become so specialized they only eat one type.
Only one species of eucalyptus, isn't it, or something?
And it can lead to their extinction.
Yeah.
So, okay, Dr. Purdom, being a molecular geneticist and working here at Answers in Genesis, and being the expert scientist that you are, with the knowledge that you have,
ready.
Okay.
What kind do the panda belong to?
They belong to the bear kind.
So they are a bear kind?
They're a bear.
So could we mix pandas with something else to try to get back some genetic diversity? You know, like they were doing with storks, hybridization and.
I don't know that they could do
Or are they
that. They might be too specialized.
Too specialized. They've lost the ability to mix back with the population.
Yeah. That's. I would say that's for pandas. We know polars and grizzlies.
Wouldn't you say that's a bear?
Yeah, that's a bear.
See, there you are.
I
did a Bodhi pun.
Okay, but what this article is really, it helps us understand, though, that when we talk about Noah taking all the animals on the ark, and people say, well, how could he have taken all of these, specialized plants and things that animals eat? Well, because back then they didn't eat, they weren't that specialized. That's something that's just happened since the flood, and so he could have taken a lot of other things.
See, Bodhi, you need to get your teeth into this article.
Yeah, someone said if Bodhi doesn't make a pun, I won't be able to bear it.
What?
Okay, please, no, do not egg him on.
The question is, does it know kung fu? That's the question with this panda.
So,
By the way,
you younger people all got that one out there.
So originally, the bears were all vegetarian. Actually,
originally.
In fact,
aren't bears primarily vegetarian anyway?
Well, and they're kind of omnivorous too. They'll eat a lot of different things
Fish.
too. But think about this. Pandas have very sharp teeth. One of the things that I've always been taught is, well, if something has sharp teeth, it's a meat eater. Well, that's not always the case. Now, and a panda is a good example of that. Here it is chowing down on bamboo with very sharp teeth. Yet we find a dinosaur in the fossil record. The first thing people say is, oh, it's got sharp teeth. It was a meat eater.
Yeah.
How do we know that?
Sometimes in my talk to kids on dinosaurs, I show them the skull of a panda. They don't know it's a panda. And say, what do you think this ate? This ate. And you immediately think, oh, it was a meat eater, because look at all those sharp teeth and so on.
Right.
But it primarily eats bamboo.
Yeah.
And by the way, you need sharp teeth to eat bamboo. Have you tried to eat bamboo? Not cooked bamboo. Not what you find in the Chinese restaurant. You know the bamboo shoots? You tried to eat them?
Okay.
No, I don't.
Particularly at my age. Particularly at my age, it would break my tooth. So.
Okay, advanced extraterrestrials as an approximation to God. So this article was written by Dr. Avi Loeb, and he is the one that we talked about actually last time on Answers.
He's a Harvard professor.
He's a Harvard
He's the
professor.
chair of astronomy.
Yeah.
Chair of astronomy, Harvard University.
They believes in aliens, basically. So he believes this thing floating in space called Oumuamua, which I love saying, by the way.
It's a big rock.
Oumuamua is some sort of alien sail or something, and so he keeps trying. This article is another way he keeps trying to defend himself and say it's legit.
It's a bit of rock traveling through the universe.
That's all it is.
Right.
But, yeah.
And you know, one of the things he says is, even though it looks like a bit of rock, because alien technology could be so advanced, we wouldn't recognize it.
What it is.
And he says, for instance, a primitive caveman, well, see, we don't believe there's any such thing as primitive man, but from his evolutionary perspective, a primitive caveman would think a cell phone is a rock. So what he's basically saying is, this is a giant alien cell phone and we don't recognize it.
So technology goes backwards, as you get more advanced. It looks more like a rock again.
It looks more like a rock again. Yeah, it's. Remember we had an article recently where they were saying, look, there are aliens. It's just
we can't,
because they would have evolved differently to us. They could be here and we wouldn't recognize them.
Well, it's just they keep saying that, but he even believes in directed panspermia too. That the reason that we're here is because somehow, either naturally or on purpose, seeds were sent to Earth, and here we all are today.
Well,
what he also
goes
says,
further, the 3D printer is really what he's saying.
He says that to send seeds to another planet, the DNA would degenerate, But how does he assume that DNA anyway?
I don't
Like they
know.
don't
Why
have
would
the
it be
technology to
DNA?
keep that
So
there.
it could be something else.
Could be something.
So,
Right,
they
but
send
so they sent a 3D printer to print out the seeds and the DNA. So we're actually just a result of a 3D printer.
And he's a Harvard professor. Just saying.
Yeah, but you could teach this in public school. It'd be science.
Oh.
Yeah,
But
this
if you
is-
mention
this
that
is
God
purely
created
religion.
everything, that's religion.
This is purely religion. In fact, when I read through this, I thought it was just a science fiction piece. I really did. And then I got to the end, I'm like, this is the chair of astronomy at Harvard.
Yep.
It was, to me, that's one of the most embarrassing things I've seen. But it goes to show the religious convictions that people have.
But you know what he says in here? To save humans becoming extinct and killing ourselves off, we need to send these 3D printers out to other planets so that we can survive on other planets.
Yeah, there's a real hospitable to life, you know, which we haven't found any. So
Hey,
it's just ludicrous.
He does. There is one statement in here I'd like you to comment on, Dr. Purdom, and that is the universal left-handedness of life forms on Earth.
Yeah.
The amino acids come in two forms. They call left hand, right hand.
Right.
But
We
the
only
ones that
have
make up life are
Life or
left-handed
left, exclusively.
exclusively,
Yeah.
which means how could
Well,
that
'cause
happen?
you can't do that naturally, because naturally you get a 50-50 mixture usually, or right around a 50-50 mixture. So how do you do that from a naturalistic perspective? You can't.
I
It
know,
has to be
the odds are
designed.
astronomical.
Hey, somebody
Yeah.
said here, Bodhi's puns are out of this world. And I would say
Yes.
on the basis of this article, they're alien.
They probably are.
Oh, okay.
And,
Well, I'm going
and I
to
hope they don't alienate people.
Well, this one says just grin and bear it, which is what I'm having to do a lot today. Okay, but we'll
With the
go
panda
through one
one, for
more here.
sure.
Bill that would ban abstinence-only sex ed passes through committee after hours of testimony at state capitol. So this is in Colorado. And so as I was reading this article, I thought, okay, you know, this is your typical, they're banning abstinence-only.
No.
No. It's all LGBT agenda. It's so much more than abstinence only, or
Right.
not doing abstinence-only sex ed. It's
Right.
about all of the LGBT
Yeah,
stuff.
Basically, kids are going to be forced to hear about all sorts of strange, odd sex things that's going on.
Just
and
perversion.
It's going to be forced upon them, and they're to be taught that that stuff is normal.
Yep.
They said the bill
It's terrible.
clarifies content requirements for public schools and prohibits instruction from explicitly or implicitly teaching or endorsing religious ideology or sectarian tenets and doctrines. Like, that's exactly what they're doing.
Oh, yeah. And,
Yeah, they're taking sexual humanism and imposing it in the school system.
well, and the state is doing it. That's the other issue. Normally, schools are held accountable on a local level, and this is the state wanting to institute this.
And
at
it's the
that
state
level.
taking the place of parents and saying,
Right.
we know best what's to
Yeah.
teach your kids, which increasingly is why more and more people are realizing public schools, by and large, are churches
they
of
can be
humanism, churches of secular humanism, and many of the teachers are just priests of secular humanism.
Yeah.
All right, well, I think we're out of time for today. So the B team will be back. The next gen team will be
next gen
back
team.
on Monday, and they'll finish up. We only had, I think, one article we didn't get through, and they'll
So
have some new
Avery
ones,
leads
too.
the B team.
I like the next gen team. I like that name better.
Next gen team.
Next gen.
Next gen team.
Next
You
generation.
know how there was Star
Yeah.
Trek and Star Trek The Next
Yeah.
Generation?
See?
Well,
We're like the
it's just the next gen.
60s.
We're sort of the wise older generation.
Could they be considered the millennial generation?
Okay, no,
Hi.
well, Brian isn't, so.
Oh,
anyway.
is he yeah, he's a little older.
All
Okay.
right, well, we'll see you back next week.
All right, God bless, guys.
Folks, thank you for being here. Yeah.